We are knee deep in Dynasty Rookie Drafts, and on today's episode of the Regression to Mean podcast, we are going through our favorite rookie picks in rounds 2, 3, and 4 of Dynasty Rookie Drafts. I'm your host, Shaun and I'm joined by my co-host, my good friend, and my fellow knower of ball, Aidan Aller. Aidan, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, Shaun. It's, the dust has settled a bit from the NFL draft, and, I think things are starting to take shape a little bit, at least in terms of, the initial reactions. So, no, it's been fun to dive in. I've actually been on Underdog a little bit, a little Wawa action this week. So I've been dabbling my toes in some 2024 best ball before the NFL schedule comes out. So that's been a while since I've touched grass, really. Yeah. How about yourself?
I'm in a slow draft right now. I have already selected Anthony Richardson, so that feels quite good. I've auto picked a couple times. Don't hate the auto picks, but you got to stay on your toes. I'm a little out of practice with the slow drafts, and I've done a rookie draft. I've got my first one underneath my belt in the books, so I feel pretty good about it. It was a slow draft though, so I haven't sat in a lobby and gone through a full draft in a while. So I'm pretty excited. We're gonna mock draft all 4 rounds of a rookie draft later today. So if you're done watching this, go watch that. That'll be out in our feed as well. And promo code RTM. If you haven't signed up for Underdog, $100 first deposit, they'll match it with promo code RTM. You know what to do. But we're talking Dynasty on today's episode. So if you've been following our channel, we've covered a ton of the first round talent in Dynasty. We've been on a couple sleepers. We germained our Burton pretty hard on our favorite targets last episode. But in our in-depth analysis, we haven't had a chance to go deep in our bags and share some of our favorite sleepers. So that's going to be today's episode. Our favorite, essentially, sleepers, rounds 2, 3, 4. Do you have sleepers in round 2? I don't know, but we just wanted to talk about a couple round 2 guys, right? So that's why we're doing that. But before we dive in, 2 things. One, if you are part of the 70% of people who are watching this video but aren't yet subscribed to the Regression to Me channel, you know what to do. Like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on the notifications to make sure you aren't missing any of the content that we're dropping weekly on this channel. And 2, we love to hear from you, the mean team. Let us know who you're drafting, who you're fading in the comments below. I also heard you loud and clear, people. No more monologues. I got roasted, Aidan. I got roasted.
No monologues.
No monologues. We tried something different. Where we skipped an intro. We jumped in. We thought we should start with Drake May, and then you look up and I've been talking for 6 minutes straight. So we heard you loud and clear. No more monologues. And there was a really mean comment about stay off the Adderall. I'm not on Adderall, okay? Maybe I've had a little caffeine, buddy, but I'm not on Adderall. That was mean. Who hurt you?
That's called passion. That's called passion, really.
The format of today's episode is pretty simple. Aidan and I each have our favorite picks in rounds 2, 3, and 4, and we're just going to go round by round and reveal them. Let's start with round 2. Aidan, who is your favorite pick of round 2?
Yeah, this is a guy that we've talked about at least once or twice on the program, and it's Marshawn Lloyd. Really like Marshawn Lloyd. You could go with, a couple of other running backs earlier in the second round, but I really like the value here. He's going around the 2.8 right now, so about 20th overall. Again, depending on how many teams are in your league. Right now, the running back 4 off the board, and I really like him both, in the short and the long term. Just looking long term, we've talked about Josh Jacobs too. This is a guy, we like this year, but in reality, it's a 1-year deal. They can cut ties with Josh Jacobs if they want to, and this is a guy that's turning 27 next offseason. That's kind of the death number at the running back position.
So Leo DiCaprio is out.
Yeah, Leo left at 25, but we're hanging around at least for age 26 here under Matt LaFleur. We've also talked about this year running backs in the second contract too with the new team. It's just it's not a very long list of running backs to see. Sure, Josh Jacobs has been super productive in his career. This is a slight difference in terms of some of the other guys on that list, but I think long term I really like him. Just looking at this year though, if you haven't looked into Marshawn Lloyd too much, 5'9", 210, scored pretty well in terms of all of his measurables, was 8.29 on the RAS score. So pretty good, pretty fast, super athletic. Felt like we didn't get quite enough in terms of that bell cow in college, but when you've got Caleb Williams as your quarterback, playing hero ball all day and your defense is giving up 50 points, it's hard to really lean on the run game there. So he had just about 1,000 all-purpose yards last year and 9 touchdowns. But there were bursts, of a really good running back there, which is exciting. The coaches have already been talking about it in Green Bay. One of the biggest barriers to him getting on the field would be his fumbling issues. I think in college, you can get away with it a little bit. But in the pros, I think if he's not fumbling the rock, there's no reason he shouldn't be RB2 week 1. We know what AJ Dillon is, and it's really not much. It's 2 to 3 yards a carry. It's just he just doesn't play as big as his body is. But I like him here. It's a good young offense. You're tied to Jordan Love. You're tied to Matt LaFleur. Creative play calling, a young offensive line too. I think there's a lot to like. Is this a guy you're slotting in week 1? No, in your fantasy lineups? Probably not. But outside of Jonathan Brooks, if he's healthy, like, is there a rookie running back this year that's going to be in your lineup week one? Probably not. So, this is more of a hold, but I like him here. There's some interesting guys around that range. Shaun will get into his guy too, but towards the end of that second round, you're looking at guys like Leggett, Jalen Wright, Troy Franklin, Roman Wilson. Outside of Leggett, you're probably not looking at a week one impact, but this is a guy that I like long term. I think he's absolutely going to get a shot in Green Bay. And if there's no fumbling issues, he could have himself a nice couple of years there. So, super bullish on him there, the 208. What do you think about Marshawn Lloyd? I know this is not the first time he's come up here.
Okay, so negative 3 things with Lloyd. Most snaps he ever saw in a season was 156. So he wasn't really a full-time player ever in college. So that's just something to think about. But also kind of bullish in the sense that he might just slot into a part-time role and be super efficient. He dances behind the line of scrimmage. He's not necessarily known as a north-south runner, and he's had major ball security. He's been come up to DeAndre Swift in terms of athleticism. But, DeAndre Swift has struggled with, making coaches happy, right? So I think Lloyd is an interesting candidate because he has the measurables of a bell cow. He has that over 30 BMI. He's a stout guy, 5'8", 220, 4.48 speed, really strong underlying analytical profile. Had over 1.2 yards per route run in back-to-back seasons as a receiver out of the backfield. And then he forces a shit ton of tackles, which is usually a bullish indicator that he'd be good in the pros. You've already seen some teams comp him a bit to Aaron Jones. Like LaFleur even came out and said, he reminds us a bit of Aaron Jones. I think he could be a really efficient player. I don't think that Josh Jacobs is dust by any means, though. And they're basically going to pay Josh Jacobs $14.8 million. And this guy behind him clearly has some development that needs to occur. But, Daniel Jeremiah, who knows a ton of ball, big draft expert for the NFL Network, had him as his number 1 running back. So I think overall, long-term, really good spot for Marshawn Lloyd to be with LaFleur, to be in that run game, to be with Jordan Love. All great signs. Short-term, I think Josh Jacobs is going to consolidate much of the work in that role, in that offense. But that's priced in at the 208. So
I think I forgot to mention too is Josh Jacobs has only played 1 full season in the NFL. I've got to assume like you're not rooting for injuries, but like the running back position is brutal, man. You're getting ankles, knees, like you're just getting banged up. I'd assume at some point Josh Jacobs missed some time, and Marshawn Lloyd should be first up. Barring any fumbling issues or just like total lack of like development. So it should be interesting.
Lloyd and Benson are both good, but they're behind 2 starters that have been ultra productive in the NFL. Who are a little bit older.
Benson's about a half round more expensive too, where you've still got some of those wide receivers that could be in your lineup week 1. So I love Benson, but to your point, like you're probably early second for Benson compared to later for Lloyd.
I need running backs. I'm in the 208 in one of the leagues we're in. It's going to be hard pressed to not think.
He's right there. You've got Blake Corum there too. You've definitely got some running backs there.
Yeah, that's a good place to take running back, but I don't know if I can take him if this guy, who's my favorite pick in the second round right now, is on the board. And that would be A.D. Mitchell, the wide receiver out of Texas, who's now an Indianapolis Colt, who's going in the 207 in sleeper rookie drafts. And this, like we've been in group chats. I was kind of an A.D. Mitchell hater going into the pre-draft process, remember, for like a couple of reasons. He struggled to stand out in a crowded room at Georgia, and then he transferred. And then he went to Texas, and he didn't necessarily dominate market share. He didn't have crazy stats. His analytical profile is pretty lackluster, considering he just has never been a big target. Now, he's had big moments, the biggest stages, catching touchdowns in the college play, like football playoffs. Like, if you turn on a random game, you're like, damn, is that the best receiver in the country? Like, that's the kind of talent A.D. Mitchell has. But then if you look at the underlying analytical profile, it's not great. But, even as the process went along, Mitchell started to check some boxes for me. Matt Harmon, his RP profile of A.D. Mitchell was glowing. 74% success rate versus man, which is 84th percentile. 76% versus zone, which is 31st. 74% success rate versus press man, which is 83rd. So like all really strong numbers. Clearly, like somebody you could plop in at X and go beat one-on-one press man coverage. Like that's the kind of stuff you want to see in the NFL. Like that's what's going to make a huge target earner, potentially in a big fantasy star. And then the next box he checks is he absolutely tore up the combine, dude. Like we were talking about this, Aidan. Like he ran like a 4.34 at 6'2", 205. Like that's insane. He had like a 9.99 RAS score. And he showed off that crazy explosiveness in the broad jump, dude. In the broad jump, he jumped 11.04, 11 feet. That's crazy. And then this. You know how big of a believer, and this is the final box that's going to check it for me. He landed with Anthony Richardson in the Colts. He landed with Shane Steichen. I'm a Shane Steichen stan. I mean, he got drafted to the Colts. He's now going to be in the same building as Shane Steichen, who made Michael Pittman look like Keenan Allen. And I love Michael Pittman, but like Shane Steichen knows ball. He knows what he's doing. Some people are anti this landing spot because Josh Downs is good. Michael Pittman's good. Anthony Richardson's a running quarterback. And Jonathan Taylor is an excellent running back. However, if A.D. Mitchell's good and he has the skill, he's going to force the issue and get on the field. And if he forces the issue and gets on the field in a Shane Steichen offense with Anthony Richardson who throws a hell of a deep ball where A.D. Mitchell wins deep, and A.D. Mitchell's going to get some of these schemed up targets that Shane Steichen's so good at, that means A.D. Mitchell's probably going to hit for you in a massive way. Like if he's good enough to get on the field and you're able to take this risk at the 207, I think it's going to pay massive dividends because like I was out on Mitchell thinking he was going to get drafted by the Jaguars at the 17th pick and you're going to have to take him at the 108 or 109. I was like, that's a lot for projection. You're projecting a lot here. The guy did not have a big analytical profile. Then he goes in like the late second and he lands in this spot with the Colts who know how to develop wide receivers. I mean, fucking Reggie Wayne's their wide receiver coach, dude. Like, it's a high risk, high reward. The high risk is Mitchell doesn't see the field. He was a bit of a bust. He's an athletic freak that didn't produce in college. The reward is this guy is a true X receiver that you pair with Anthony Richardson and Shane Steichen, and he's a perfect complement to what they have with Pittman and what they have with Josh Downs. It's like, what do you think? Like, do you actually like this Mitchell landing spot on the Colts? Because I've seen some people downgrade it.
I think one of the last things that you just touched on there is where I was kind of going to dive in is like, this is a true outside receiver. Josh Downs played over 80% of his snaps in the slot. Michael Pittman is definitely their alpha there, excels in both the inside and out. They don't have another guy that I think truly excels on the outside quite like him. So in my opinion, like, this is your X or Z on day one. You figure out Josh Downs or Alec Pierce as, your wide receiver 3 inside. But I like this landing spot. I think, Shane Steichen, slam dunk there. Anthony Richardson, you want to be tied to a good quarterback, absolute rocket arm, going to run, extend plays, create plays for him. And you mentioned too, the productivity, like it wasn't that lackluster. The guy was still, over 800 yards and 10 plus touchdowns, in a Power 5 school. So, sure, he didn't have, 1,600 yards like, Rome or, some of those absolute monster explosive years, but, that's still, an early declare, playing pretty damn well in a Power 5 conference. So I like the landing spot here. I don't see many barriers to playing time. Sure, you keep hearing about his blood sugar and, the issues with him, he's a little moody, but like, that's going to be fine. Like, once you get to the NFL, like this is your full-time job.
Talent wins out.
Yeah.
Talent wins out.
Like you're going to be just fine. So like, no, like I think he's super talented. You talked about some of the scoring he did in terms of like his, just athletic profile. I think this guy's awesome. We were kind of begging that the Colts took a wide receiver early on, which they did here. So yeah, I just don't see many barriers to him playing early on. His wide receiver profile is very different than I think anything else in that room. You've got Pittman, you've got him, and then you put your smaller guys in the slot. So I like it. I think he's going to contribute pretty early too.
Yeah, 3 wide receiver sets: Mitchell, Pittman, Downs, Anthony Richardson at the tip of the spear, Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. It's a tasty offense, and sure, he's going to be competing for targets, but that's priced in, dude. It's priced in
for sure.
Like he's going around the same range that Roman Wilson. Like, come on, man. You want the slot only number 2 in Arthur Smith's offense tied to quarterbacks that don't like to throw over the middle of the field? Like, I mean, I know Mitchell's going above Wilson, but like, comparing him to Ricky Pearsall, who I love, right? He's a 49er. I'm a Niner fan. But like, I think Mitchell gets on the field faster than Pearsall does. I think Pearsall's like the wide receiver 4 behind Juwan Jennings. And I think you can project this idea that either Ayuk or Debo are gone and Pearsall slides in, but like,
yeah, he's the heir.
I mean,
he's the heir to the
there.
throne.
And like I will say this, Shane Steichen is a great offensive coordinator. They don't overcomplicate it. They get the ball to their best players. If Mitchell can play, he will win opportunity. And that's the bet you make. Like you bet on talent in a good situation. I think Mitchell's a no-brainer. Okay, we're moving on to the 3rd round here. Aidan, tell us who you are drafting in the 3rd round and who your favorite sleeper is in rookie drafts.
Yeah, so this is a guy that I have been all over since the kind of early draft process. A guy that I followed, throughout college, and that is Mr. Javon Baker.
You've been an early shareholder. You've had so much early.
I hope no one in my leagues are listening to this because I'm going to get a hold of Javon Baker. There's no stopping me. I'll pick him a little ahead of ADP if I have to. Currently, right now, he's right around the 306. So about the middle of the 3rd round, 16th wide receiver off the board. Feels too low for me. This is a guy that I think could be an absolute beast. 6'2", 195, about 8.0 RAS. But his tape and his stats in college are just super fun. Didn't play much his first 2 years at Alabama. The guy was a 5-star recruit, like absolute beast in high school. Then goes to UCF and just goes ape shit, dude. Junior year was awesome. Senior year was just nuts. 52 catches for just under 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. He led the country in yards per catch. This is a guy that, like with the ball in his hands is just like must see television. Before we started today, it's like You see some George Pickens in there, just like
A
the
little bit.
long strides, great hands, sharp route running, super impressive. Played most of his snaps actually too from the outside. So, about 70%. You kind of move him in or out, 70% you like that. He's got plenty of reps on the inside. In terms of kind of like where he succeeds, kind of just referring to Matt Harmon here. Pretty successful in terms of like all three buckets, 70% success rate against man, 80% against zone. He was in the 88th percentile in press though, which is really impressive.
It's legit. It's legit.
Like,
he's an X. Like he's an outside X. Like, he can beat press man coverage.
Yeah. So it's like, sometimes young receivers really struggle at the NFL level with some of those, bigger corners, disrupting the routes, just absolutely jamming them at the NFL level, which is something I don't really see happening for him. So the athletic profile is amazing. Struggles a bit with drops, and something I kind of uncovered today. I dug in him quite a bit, and I was like, "Whoa, I don't remember seeing this." 14 drops over the last 2 years. So that's
what are you gonna do?
Not really gonna fight at the NFL level, but that's fine. That's not something I'm knocking on him. From day one. If the drops aren't an issue in the NFL, so be it. Hit the jug.
But his hands are good. Like he doesn't have.
The hands are good. The hands
it's
are
not
really
like Troy
impressive.
Franklin where it does not look natural.
Yeah, like he's
doesn't
making
look
contested
great.
catches. He's got like the nice like late hands. Do you see? So like he's crafty. The wide receiver room in New England's interesting. The only guy that I'm like confident that is going to be like playing day one is Pop Douglas. Pop Douglas is for sure playing. You've got Juju, who is just littered with injuries.
He's out. I'm counting him out. I wouldn't be shocked.
Knees are dust. Same. You've got Kendrick Bourne recovering from the ACL. You've got KJ Osborne, who
will play. Coaches love KJ Osborne.
I think he will play as well.
He'll play.
And then you've got Jalen Polk. So you've got the rookie who was taken just ahead of Javon Baker. So to your point, I was going to say too, I think, one of those veterans probably get cut. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Juju. That would have been my guess as well. And then it's likely going to be either Polk or Javon Baker playing from day one. I think it's Javon Baker personally. I think, his athletic profile is, more unique compared to the other two. But that's a risk you're taking with him. But again, it's baked in too. You're at the 306. Jalen Polk is, being drafted beginning of the third round. So, pretty similar here. You're kind of just flipping a coin in terms of, who excels early on in training camp and who's going to get the first crack there. But my money's on Javon Baker.
Okay.
Outplaying him in training camp and outproducing him his rookie year and beyond. So I'll be flag planting that one in terms of picking between those two rookies. As I know a lot of people are going back and forth on which one they prefer. But a question to you is, do you see him beating out Polk? And just in general, what's your temperature check on Mr. Javon Baker?
Polk seems a little more steady Eddie, like teacher's pet, blocks, does the gritty, nasty work. Like coaches love that shit, and I heard they took him in the beginning of the second round because he's a great culture fit too for what they're trying to bring and build. I think Polk's going to slide in and start day one with KJ Osborne and with Pop Douglas. Like that would be my three that I think are out there. Kendrick Bourne's recovering from an ACL. We'll see where that lands. And I think Javon Baker's a little bit more of a project. Matt Harmon called out that he ran most of his routes on one side of the field on a stripped down route tree in the Big 12. And he's comped a bunch of different receivers who have done this before. And it's either they flopped or it's just taken them a little while for them, to develop. So I think Baker is someone who could come on strong at the end of next season. And I just think he's a natural fit for Drake May's playing style. So I feel like when Drake May's eventually on the field playing for the Patriots, I think we're going to see Baker. But I think overall Polk's going to get more playing time, more snap share at first. And because of that, I think he sees more targets. But long term, I think Javon Baker is a little bit more of an exciting prospect because of his ability to win downfield and what he's able to do after the catch. So I think overall Baker is a really fun pick. He's a great pick at the end of the middle of the third round. And I think he's got a higher ceiling than people would assume as a fourth round draft pick. But in terms of beating out Polk year one, I'd be surprised. I just think they're going to play two different roles, which is nice. So maybe they don't even have to compete against each other. Like ideally, end of next year, you've got Baker on the outside, Polk playing that flanker position, and Pop Douglas inside, and you're running Hunter Henry at tight end.
That'd be fun. That's a fun offense.
It's not bad.
No,
it's really not bad. You got all the archetypes. You have all the, you're trying to build a basketball lineup of your pass catchers, and you have all of them there. So I like that room. I think my money's on Polk at the gates, but I mean Baker at 308 is a great pick in my opinion.
It's fun. Yeah, it's really fun. I like the landing spot there. I was hoping he landed somewhere where he was going to have a chance, and he can have a chance.
I think he will. Again, talent wins out. If KJ Osborne holds you down and Kendrick Bourne holds you down,
then you're not that good.
Yeah, you're not that good. So talent's going to win out. You're taking dice rolls in the third round anyway. So also take the guy who makes people fucking stand up out of wheelchairs. Fantasy football is about having fun, and Javon Baker's fun.
For sure. Yeah. That's fun.
This pick's way more boring. Like this is like your eat your vegetables pick. It's like seriously, it's like paying for car insurance. Just I got a good price on it. This is Ben Sinnot, the tight end for the Washington Commanders, the 302 in sleeper ADP. In terms of a tight end, let's start with the negatives. He's pretty tiny, 6'3", 250. I saw a couple plays where I was watching him on tape, and he runs out of the backfield a decent amount. And they check an optum, like, is that a fullback? Like, is that a running back? No, it's their tight end. So he's kind of on the borderline. I know Sam Laporta has blazed trails for smaller tight ends. Sam Laporta being 6'3", 250. So I think things are changing a little bit on what a tight end can be. But, you look at his distribution. He played 50% of his snaps in line, 35% in the slot. We like that. 5% outside and 10% in the backfield. So pretty creative usage for Sinnot out of college. And if you look at Sinnot, he checks a lot of the boxes. He has good draft capital. He's drafted 53rd overall in round 2. Strong production. So he cleared the 22% dominator. Was over 2 yards per route run. He led K-State receiving his final year of college. He forced a good amount of tackles, right? If you watch his tape, it's pretty clear. He can take the right angles, make guys miss, guys bounce off him. He's a stout dude. And he tested well. He had a 9.5 RAS. He ran a 4.68 40-yard dash. He jumped out of the gym. His vertical and broad were really solid. And when you put that together, you have an athletic tight end who produced in college, was the number 1 pass catching option. You could play in line, in the backfield, out wide. I feel like this is a pretty good player who, if things break, would you be shocked that Ben Sinnot is like the number 2 option in this offense behind Terry McLaurin? Like we like Dotson going ahead of last year. I'm not giving up on Dotson, but Dotson's been pretty lackluster to start his career.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he was 2, but 3 I wouldn't be.
Exactly. So you could get a third option in a potentially pass-happy offense with Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels. And then if things break right, it could be the number 2 by the end of last year or even in year 2. So like, I think you're paying up. You're paying up pretty like cheap capital for this as a tight end. I just feel like it's a good value pick. I know it sounds a little boring, but I think he checks the boxes. I think this guy could get like 5 or 6 targets in the NFL. I think I'd be nervous if training camp comes around and they're like, he's not a tight end, he's an offensive weapon. That's when we run for the hills because we want a tight end. We want a tight end. We're not drafted offensive weapons. But I do like the fact that you can move around the formation, and I'll say it was pretty good. Did you watch a lot of Ben Sinnot?
Yeah, he's interesting.
He's a good player.
Yeah. My only fear is if Cliff is like tied to like Zach Ertz early on, like we don't need to do
the Trey McBride.
I know. I'm like we don't need to do this again. Like just don't do this to us, because like for those of you who don't know, like Logan Thomas is gone. Outside of Logan Thomas, they had just over 250 yards between. What are these 2 guys' names? I was just looking at it.
Logan Paul, right? Was the tight end?
No, it was Cole Turner and John Bates. They each had about,
of course, John Bates,
30 catches combined. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. Logan Thomas was their 4th leading receiver last year. So to your point, it wouldn't be all that surprising if a tight end ends up being there. Their 3rd option with Curtis Samuel gone. They didn't do much in terms of kind of like filling that void. I know they drafted McCaffrey. You've got a couple of other guys there, De'Ami Brown, some other options. But Ben Sinnot's interesting. And again, like we're talking the 3rd round here. Let's say Zach Ertz maybe plays a little bit, so be it. But, this is a young guy. He's going to be around there for a while. Tight ends simply don't pop right away anyways. So be patient with him. But, let's say you've got a void in your tight end room. Let's say you're like me and, all you've got is Darren Waller on your team right now. Just go take a swing on a tight end here in the 3rd round. It's, unlikely you're hitting very often on 3rd and 4th round picks. I think this year is actually pretty deep in the 3rd round. Once you get to the 4th round, it's, even thinner as we'll get to soon here. But I like the pick. I think you could do a lot worse in terms of, high volume passing offense.
Yeah, eat your vegetables with Ben Sinnot. It's not sexy, but you might be able to get a tight end for your Dynasty roster in the 3rd round. Who could be pretty productive.
No, I like.
All right, moving on to the 4th round. This is a deep sleeper. I was quite excited when you told me that you were going to talk about it. Tell us why you're taking this running back in the 4th round.
Yeah, we're double dipping a running back here for my list today, and it's Tyrone Tracy Jr. At the 407. The 4th round is tough this year. Once you get the 4th round, it's very likely you're really hitting on anything. I want guys that are potentially going to play, where I actually see a path to potential playing. You got guys like Spencer Rattler, who are some other guys that are down here,
Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, Brendan Rice, Theo Johnson. There's a couple of guys there, but Tyrone Tracy has a real chance to play this year. Outside of Devin Singletary, there's no reason why he's not getting touches from week 1. He won't be the starter, but again, it's kind of Devin Singletary and a couple of other Jags. It's, nothing all that impressive ahead of him. Really impressive testing. 9.87 on the RAS scale. So guy that measured very well for his size, pretty stereotypical running back size, 5'11", 200, 4.4 speed. Definite, running back build and skills. was pretty productive last year too. He was a 5-year guy in college, which is it's a red flag, and it's baked in here. He's going to turn 25 this November, which
but he's converted wide receiver. He played wide receiver at Iowa, and then that's why he's a 5th-year guy. So we're like, okay, 5th-year guy, and the Giants take him in the 5th round. So
it's interesting. He was productive last year. A little over 800 yards, just over 6 yards a carry. To Sean's point, they'll probably try to use him creatively. I think there could be a world where he's even taking touches, in a slot, kind of, Shane Vereen type role, where he's, moving around the field, doing some more things than just being in the backfield. But, in the 4th round, I want someone that actually has a path to playing. Some of these other guys here, could not even make rosters potentially.
No.
Brendan Rice might not make the Chargers roster. There's other guys from the 4th round. Go take a shot on someone that you can actually envision being on your roster. So that's what I went here with Tyrone Tracy.
And 5th round pick too. It wasn't a 7th round pick. He was taken before Kamani Vidal was becoming incredibly popular, which we get. Vidal's fun, good player. But the Giants backfield has Devin Singletary, and he's a coach's favorite, so he's going to continue to get touches. But this offense is going to search for juice, and Tyrone Tracy, new team, he's got juice. So this is an easy close your eyes and point click if you need running back. Such a worthy dart throw.
Why not?
All of it's baked in. All of it's baked into his ADP. This one, I don't know, if you're drafting in August, if you're doing a rookie drafts in August, which some people do later on in summer, I feel like this guy could rise based off training camp reports. And that's wide receiver Malik Washington for the Miami Dolphins, who's at the 406 right now in Sleeper. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. From a pure production standpoint, he's one of the best pass catchers in the country last year. 1,400 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns, 3.15 yards per route run. He was the entire Virginia offense. He put that team on his back, and he transferred to Virginia after playing at Northwestern. He comes in, they build the entire offense around him, and he was PFF's 2nd highest rated wide receiver in college football last season. Okay, first off, huge check mark. Why the fuck is this guy in the 6th round if he's doing that? Well, he's older.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a little older, and then he had, I guess, some questionable medicals. That's why he fell. But again, that's priced in when you're taking him at the end of the 4th round in a rookie draft.
Yeah.
At the combine, Aidan, 4.47 40-yard dash, 42.5-inch vertical jump, 10-foot broad. All good, explosive. And you see that explosiveness on tape. His reception perception profile from Harmon was awesome. 72% success rate versus man, 82% success rate against zone, 40% success rate against press man. He primarily is going to be a slot receiver, and so he's excellent against zone coverage, which he loves to see. Success rate against press man is pretty good considering he's 5'8", 191, so he's built like a fire hydrant, but it's not bad to be that good against press man when you're that tiny, and he's excellent at the catch point. Dude has incredible hands. So throw that in as a player. He falls to the 6th round, which is a bummer, but then he lands with Miami under Mike McDaniel, and during the draft, Mike McDaniel's pounding the table for Malik Washington. He wants it. Take this guy. I want him. And he even said on the call, you heard it, right? I listened to it. He's like, hey, if you show up and you're a professional, which we think you can be, you can earn a role right out of the gates. And then a week later, of course, they sign OBJ. So who knows, right, how that's going to work. But OBJ's a little bit of a dust ball. And again, if Malik Washington's any good, they're going to put the best players on the field. That's what Miami does. They put the fastest, best players on the field. They definitely have a type. And I think that this is just a no-brainer flyer in the 4th round. Just like Tracy, you need a wide receiver, just take Malik Washington. That's easy money. Did you get to watch a ton of Washington? Because dude, his tape is electric.
It's fun, dude. And to your point, there's a path here. There's a path to potentially playing. There's other guys here. It's just no way. You've got Mike McDaniels. You've got 2 other good wide receivers. Yeah, I'm not really all that worried about OBJ. But no, this is a great landing spot for him. To be drafted that late, but still go somewhere where potentially could crack the lineup. At some point this season. It's exciting. Yeah, the stats are really. Dude had 1,300 plus yards last year. There's no lack of productivity. Yeah, some sketchy medicals a little bit. But I like it.
Slot only player.
There's very few other guys that are projected in the 4th that I'd be excited about. Really than these 2. I think Rattler's an interesting one. Isaac Garendo. If you want to go speed guy.
Shanny traded up for a running back. Yeah, good luck. And he's wearing number 49. Have fun with that.
Tez Walker. I don't know. These guys have a path to playing this year. And if not, at least there's a vision potentially playing at some point. Some of these other guys could be out of the league, in a year or 2.
I'll say it. If I had to pick a Puka Nacua coming out of nowhere, this would be my Puka Nacua.
Could be Malik Washington.
Yep, plant my flag on that. I could be totally wrong, but that's my flag plant. I believe there's that much to talent.
All right. I can't support you there, but it's your flag plan, not mine.
That's probably, it's let's cut the episode. Let's end it now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in again, Aidan. Thanks for jumping through. If you are in Dynasty Rookie Drafts, go ahead, take A.D. Mitchell, take Marshawn Lloyd, take Ben Sinnot, take Javon Baker, Malik Washington, and Tyrone Tracy. We appreciate you, everybody, for tuning in. Until next time.